What is the Parliamentary Performance Scorecard? It's an attempt by citizens, since we're civil society organizations, to get into Parliament and get documentary evidence from the parliamentary Hansard, official records of Parliament, or from the register of Parliament in terms of attendance, from the committees of Parliament, as well as from the constituencies, the districts. We collect data throughout Uganda on how MPs are doing their job. So we score both the individual members of Parliament who are elected, and also we score the institution of Parliament, because the functioning of the institution could be the one responsible for either poor performance or good performance of the individuals, or the performance of individual MPs could be affecting the performance, overall performance of the institution of Parliament. So what is it this Parliament is about? It's about a social contract citizens, implied social contract citizens have entered into with elected leaders, because they come looking for your vote. As the employees, you employ them for 5 years to deliver, to represent you, to legislate for you, to appropriate the resources of government in terms of budget approval, also to oversee the executive. They become your supervisors on behalf of the citizens of Uganda. And it comes from that social contract that the employers, who are the citizens, the voters, should have at least a system, a mechanism, under which they can look at and see whether the MP has performed or not, whether that contract should be renewed after 5 years or not, or they need to send somebody else. But because of the absence of such tools, the citizens have been fooled, they have been taken for a ride, the MPs, the people are elected here, and then they are hijacked by other interests. They are captured. And instead of legislating for the ordinary people, they legislate it either for themselves or for those in the executive or for those in industry, for World Bank, for IMF, and therefore they shortchange the interests of ordinary people. So the scorecard is an attempt by we in civil society, on behalf of citizens of Uganda, together with Uganda Management Institute, academic institution, okay, and another private sector organization which handles data, FIT Insights. We came together to put a proposal and come out with a criteria of how to assess the performance of MPs. We assess MPs from 3 performance arenas. Where do MPs perform their job? In plenary of Parliament. They are expected, all of them are expected to be in Parliament. The word Parliament comes from parler, a French word, meaning to talk. So it's a talking house. That's why the head of the Parliament is called Speaker, not Sleeper. Speaker is a place for talking, where people's representatives come. The executive bring proposals, Parliament disposes them through discussions, and they vote, and they pass. Okay, they approve, or they don't approve. So plenary, and then committees. 70% of the work of Parliament is handled in the committees. There are 2 types of committees. Standing committee, meaning when you elect 11th Parliament, every MP must belong to a standing committee. That committee of Parliament will be there for 5 years. It's a standing committee. And then there are those committees which are called sessional committees, a session. 1 year is called session 1, session 2, session 3, session 4, session 5. So every year, annually, is a session of Parliament. So there are sessional committees which are reshuffled every session, every year. The MPs are reshuffled and shifted from committees. 70% of the work of the MPs is done in the committees of Parliament. So we record them. In the plenary, Parliament records them voices and transcribes. And then they produce a parliamentary answered book, which is official record of all discussions that took place in the plenary. But in the committee, it is now African Leadership Institute, which records them. Okay? We go to all those committees where the public is welcome, except Appointments Committee, we don't allow the public, and also Business Committee of Parliament. Only 2 committees we don't record. So we record verbatim, and then we bring people who transcribe, okay? And we produce a parliamentary committee answer. And this is because a lot of information has been lost in the committees, because the committee only comes with a 26-page report, a 15-page report, but the entire discussions that happened before that report is lost. So we are making a contribution to the Parliament of Uganda by recording, transcribing, publishing a committee Hansard. That's how we score the performance in the committees. Then the constituency is another performance arena. So the Local Government Act makes members of Parliament ex-officio member of District Local Council. So do MPs attend the District Council meeting? We photocopy all minutes of District Council throughout Uganda to look for where the MP talked. Okay? We photocopy the register of District Local Government. Are MPs attending District Local Government Council meetings or not? Or they are violating, they are breaking the law, and yet they are lawmakers. So the Local Government Act 207 is the one which empowers MPs to become ex-officio members of the District Local Council. The benefit of that is that the councillors come with the problems of Wananchi from the sub-counties councillors. And then the MPs come with a lot of information. They have been meeting the president, they have been meeting ministers so and so, they have approved this, they have a lot of information. So when they meet in the district council, the quality of decision making in the district council is improved because you have a lot of information which the MPs actually download. And then the MP, the constituents, the councillors bring the problems. The MPs pick the issues from the councillors. And that's what they use for asking questions in Parliament, for raising matters of national concern, and so because they met with the sub-county councillors at the district council. And meanwhile, the councillors take the information the MPs have given to the grassroots. That's how our democracy is supposed to perform. Now, if MPs don't attend district council meeting, then they are undermining our democracy. Then they are crippling it. They are actually failing our people. And then again, we also see whether the MP has got an office in the constituency. So do you have a political assistant when you're in Kampala? Who attends to the people? Do people have a way where to reach you? Is there an office? Can I lodge a complaint? If I want an MP to raise an issue in Parliament this week, where do I go to? How do I reach the MP if he's in Europe, if he's in, out of the country? So since it's a public office and they're given money for hiring office, for hiring personal assistants, but they consolidated that salary into their salary. But do they actually hire personal assistants? Are they there in the constituency? Is there an office? We score them. And these days we also now score them for the projects they initiate in the community because they are doing some community service. Others are buying ambulances, others are distributing seeds, others are distributing hose, others have tents, others have chairs, they have different projects. Others are supporting income generating activities, others on health, others on education. So because of the gap in service delivery, so the burden has fallen on MPs. And that's why we need to recognize that because of the absence of an ambulance in the district, people are reaching the hospital, the sick are reaching the hospital using the MP's ambulance. We need to recognize some of these effort they make, even if it was not necessarily their role. So in plenary, what do we assess? 4 things in plenary. Plenary is where the whole house meets and they are mandated. It's not like a radio station where you can be absent and call in and participate. Parliament, you have to be there physically. So what do we do? Attendance. Attendance is so important. Now that's why I was saying, I imagine if the overall attendance of Parliament is 19% in the 3rd year, not even 25%. Why don't MPs attend Parliament? I gave you a breakdown per region, okay? So now attendance is so important. And now attendance, they do their thumbprints, the door opens, it goes, it's recorded by their computers. We print out from the computers who attended and who did not attend. And the MP and the citizens need to know whether their MP is absent or, because even if you're absent and the law is made, that law applies throughout Uganda. They don't say because your MP was not there, therefore you're not going to be under this law. So it is important that our MPs attend. Secondly, participation. We count the number of lines in the parliamentary answer, the official book published by Parliament. They are recorded when they talk. We say, how much did your MP contribute? This number of lines, this number of what? We are not the ones who produce the book. Otherwise, they would blame us for bias. It is their own book, their own recording, their own transcribing. They are the ones who publish. The citizens just want to know, if this is the total volume of work, like we went to the garden, you brought this number of bags of maize, how many did your MP contribute? So we do participation. Again, we also assess influence. Areas where other MPs refer to what you said. Honorable Kivumbi said this. Honorable Speaker, I want to support what Honorable Kivumbi said. I want to say, so wherever they mentioned you, that part would not have been part of this record if it were not you. So we're trying to see who are the movers and shakers of this parliament. If you must lobby, who do people keep referring to in terms of MPs' influence? Fourth, what is your output? It's not enough to attend. It's not enough to participate and talk. It's not enough to be referred to by your colleagues. What are the tangibles? How many amendments to the bill did you move? How many motions did you introduce? How many petitions? During question time, what questions did you ask? During matters of national concern, we now go to output. So we assess those 4 parameters in the plenary. Okay? Then in committee, we assess attendance, and then do you sign the reports of the committee? Do you own up? Because if you don't like this position the committee has taken, then you're supposed to file what? A minority report. Now, if you have not even signed a minority report, you have not even signed a majority report, so what are you? Because you must then be able to not just on attendance, but even reports, owning reports in Parliament. Because the procedure says at least every report of a committee must be signed by at least a third of the MPs present. Now, if you don't sign, then it means a few people are authoring the report of the committee, and then they bring here. It means if you can hijack the 3 or 4 who are writing the report, actually, our Parliament will make wrong mistakes just for the purpose of 3 people who have been bribed. So you want to make sure that the members of the committee are participating, so that you can't bribe all of them and get what you want to protect the citizens. 3, issues which were referred to your committee. How many in a year, how many do you handle? How many are still pending? I told you of laws that have remained in Parliament, in the committees, for 900 days, for 1,153 days. Those years have long ended. The thing issues are still in the committee. They have not been brought back. So issues of national concern, a petition was sent to your committee. Did you handle? So then 4, we assess the productivity of your committee. How many reports in a year did your committee produce? And we have found committees who don't produce even a single report, not even a single report. Why should they remain committees? And then we also assess the autonomous bodies who report only to Parliament. The Constitution says Uganda Law Reform Commission reports to Parliament. Human Rights Commission reports to Parliament. Electoral Commission reports to Parliament. There are these independent bodies that report. IGG reports to Parliament. Auditor General reports to Parliament. There are about 20-something. But now when we looked at, even now, when we assess even the 10, you find that only 8 in the 3rd year had reported. Can you imagine? They are given budgets, they are given vehicles, they are given manpower. How can these bodies don't report to Parliament in a year? What is wrong? And yet, the Parliament is supposed to supervise the executive using these watchdogs. Apart from the Auditor General and IGG, even the IGG says, the Constitution says the IGG must report to Parliament twice a year, every 6 months. The Auditor General every so often. There are those who must report once a year. So now Parliament is supposed to use the reports of these specialized bodies, the report of Human Rights Committee, the Human Rights Commission, the report of the Law Reform Commission, and so forth, IGG, in order to supervise the executive based on these reports. But now if they don't report, and Parliament is not encouraging them to report, does not even penalize, why is Parliament not even refused to pass a budget to these bodies, autonomous bodies, these constitutional bodies, as a way to wake them up? So these are things which the scorecard reports. And then another issue we do is discipline and decorum. Parliament is supposed to provide exemplary leadership. Now, how many MPs were sent to the disciplinary committee of Parliament? How many were ruled out of order? How many? So they're supposed to show good example to citizens. So we also score the MPs based on that. I think the final area, I think, is appropriation, role of Parliament. how they scrutinize the budget. Scrutiny, we score them. Approval, we score them. Then sanctioning, if you find issues and did you apply sanctions, like you investigated Bank of Uganda and you found it faltered in the following ways. Now, when it came to punishing, you chickened out to apply sanctions. You did not, so we score them. I hope I'm being very clear. So those are the aspects we score. Like, for example, now, if you have increased the debt, because you see, citizens of Uganda have given you a lot of power to do a job on their behalf. And then you come here and do the job on behalf of other interests, and you forget Wananchi who elected you. So there must be a scorecard, a report card, which citizens must get how you performed, how your parliament performed, so that citizens can take a decision whether to bring you back or not. But it should be based on verifiable evidence. That's why we insist on documents, we insist on audios, we insist on videos, we insist on, so we are even now designing, we have designed 3 platforms now. Kabiriti people must be able to reach the MPs. We have designed a 2-way communication system via Kabiriti now. Okay, whether on voice or on text, you must be able to reach your MP. What's the issue that you want your MP to raise in the next 1 week? So again, those in Android, we have also a platform now. Okay, they take a photograph. I went to the health center, I was displeased by this, they backed at me, they did this, or something strange. Citizens must now become journalists, citizen journalists. They must now report to the MPs so that the MPs can raise. So if it is a drought, or if it is a hailstorm which has hit the area, the bridge has been washed, or something unpleasant has happened, or police has beaten people where, and take a photograph, send to your MP, let the MP raise it in Parliament. That's why they are there. On whose behalf are they working? So it will now come through this platform. That's the 11th Parliament we are working on. And then we are now designing another software for iOS operating system, because all MPs have been given iPads, which is an Apple thing. So now it means their office is now the iPad. So citizens must be able to reach their MPs wherever they are, in Europe, in Kampala, wherever they are, 24/7. Okay, send a text, send a photo, send a voice recording. It comes through our servers and we filter so that these personal issues do not go to the MP, disturbing the MP over my school fees of my child, over what. You just raise it on infrastructure, on education, on health, on the economy, on what. So on that's how we want to protect the MP in that platform. And then the MP should also be able to reply back and say, that road is a local government road. I've talked to the chairman LC5. Or the other day I was in the district as a member of the Works Committee, and give a feedback to your citizens. Or I've talked to the Minister of Health, I've talked to the Minister of Education. So we want to see at the end of the day, out of 1,200 issues you received from your constituents through what we call the MP scan, www.mpscanug.com. We have just created now a website where citizens can be able, through these 3 platforms, we are trying to integrate the 3 platforms so that they are able to function together and communication. So the MP does not need to be in the constituency to be disturbed, for example. He must be able to have free access to your citizens, but citizens also should be free to have access to you as our MP, because we are saying on whose interest do you work, who do you work for. So these are the ways in which we as Africa Leadership Institute, in partnership with Uganda Management Institute, are trying to improve the assessment of Parliament. So on the institution, we assess the legislation. How many laws did they pass? The laws they passed, are they in conflict with any part of the Constitution? We assess and score. The motions you passed, how many are contributing to the SDGs, Sustainable Development Goals, which Uganda committed itself in the UN? And which of these, that's why I could talk and say, which of these things they have passed is offending the National Development Plan or is in line with the National Development Plan? Is the National Development Plan going to be implemented, or implementation is going on one way, the plan is going on another way? Do we have a hope or a hopeless hope? That's why we want MPs to be the ones to ask ministers when they come to the House, show us this thing you are doing. What objective of the national plan? Which part of the national plan are you implementing? Which part of the SDGs, Sustainable Development Goals, are you implementing? So that's why we assess the performance of the institution. Again, representation, the issues of national concern they raise. Like we saw 14% agriculture. The majority of people are in agriculture, and the issues you have raised as of national concern, only 14%. So how many percent is education, health? And so we analyze all that and bring it out. Then on oversight, we find that there's a lot of backlog. So imagine Public Accounts Committee is scrutinizing budgets of 3 years, 4 years back, long gone. The report they bring is just post-mortem. Those years have ended. It's even the recommendations you're making is useless. So when will Parliament catch up with the current backlog? And all these are issues. That's why we're saying, no, let's revisit the way our Parliament is functioning. Then on appropriation, I think I've explained to you, there are 4 different aspects we see. So we assess the institution, and that's why we're able to say, hey, where are the triumphs? Where did this Parliament did something, breaking ground? Where did they do things which are commendable? So that's why I was able to pick a few of them. Where did it let down the citizens of Uganda? Where did it serve the people of Uganda better as an institution? So anyway, comrades, this is about the Parliamentary Performance Scorecard. Now, we have gone a step higher because we are working with academia. So all the data we are collecting goes to UMI for teaching. So together with the UMI, Uganda Management Institute, we are working with the Cabinet Secretariat. Every 3 months, we produce a policy brief. We pick an issue in Parliament in the 3 months. We give it to the academia to do research. Then we call the National Policy Forum, where Cabinet Secretariat, their job is to make sure the minister for that sector attends, the commissioner, the directors, they come when their matter is being discussed with the academia. And then we bring 15 radios, one from Karamoja, from Sebei, from Gulu, from Kigezi, from all the whatever used to be a district at independence or a kingdom at independence. We pick one radio, and they come here every day, they record the discussion and go and play out there. So when we produce a policy brief, okay, like for example, there's a refugee policy for Uganda. So when we analyze the refugees policy, we found that there's no policy on urban refugees. So we came up with a policy on urban refugees because the Uganda government allows refugees to do business and so forth, to move away from refugee settlements. Now most of them have come to town. So how are refugees managed in town? I'm just giving an example. Like when Parliament was discussing about miscarry. So we had to go and say tourism products. What are the tourism products in Uganda? Is miscarry one of them, Ojama? Are there no other tourism products? How is Uganda marketing its tourism product? You have a policy brief on taxation, a policy brief on disaster management, a policy brief. There are quite a number of issues on management of higher education, COVID in the, a manager in the COVID era, and so forth. So there are a number of policy briefs we keep pushing out of this. We are working together with the Cabinet Secretariat. So what am I saying here? I'm saying that, again, with UMI, we also use this data for teaching. We have developed 8 modules because for governance courses, for policy, national policy, when those policy studies, okay, in the university. So using fresh data from our Parliament, using case studies approach to improve teaching. Also now there are 2 weeks modules on constituency management, on youth and what and Parliament. There are a number of constituencies modules were put together using this data of the scorecard. And now we have also then generated a research agenda for master students, for PhD students. So all this data we are collecting will be in UMI. You can now search in their portal and you find it there. You can actually choose a topic for your research, for your masters, for your PhD. Before we did this in the 8th Parliament, we were collaborating with Columbia University and Stanford University. So now we found they were turning more students for masters and PhDs using our data. So now in the 10th Parliament, we decided to cut that off and work with our own universities here.